Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Nothing says weekend vibes like power tools roaring before sunrise, right? Wrong. Today's story's about one tenant who decided enough was enough. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. The maintenance man woke us up at 6 a.m. with hammering in the empty apartment next door, so I got even. This is now the second day in a row that they've done this. Bright and early, power tools buzzing, hammers banging, and it's Saturday, my guy. I woke up to the sound of sawing before my alarm even thought about going off. My husband glanced over at me with that look that says, "Please don't do what I think you're about to do." He saw the expression on my face and knew somebody was about to get it. I took a deep breath, rolled out of bed, and told him, "Just be patient with me." He raised an eyebrow, still half asleep, but didn't try to stop me. Our bathroom shares a wall with the unit where all the noise was coming from. I grabbed my phone, opened Spotify, and hit play on Baby Shark. I cranked the volume up, put it on loop, and taped my phone right to the bathroom wall so the sound would carry straight through to where they were working. Almost immediately, the saw stopped. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then we heard them talking. We couldn't make out the words, just the muffled back and forth of voices. The hammering kept going for a bit, though slower now, like they were trying to figure out if I was serious. By 8 a.m., the sawing and hammering had completely stopped. I didn't touch the phone, I just left it running. Baby Shark doo-doo-doo-doo-doo filled my bathroom, my bedroom, and apparently the entire construction zone next door. At 8:47 a.m., there was a knock at our door. I opened it to find two of the maintenance guys standing there, looking a little sheepish. They apologized for waking us up and explained that they were just trying to get ahead on the work. They didn't mention the music, not even a side eye, which made me suspect they heard just enough to know it was intentional, but not enough to complain about it. Then, very politely, they said they were switching to pulling carpet for the day, which is much quieter work. I smiled, thanked them, wished them luck, and closed the door. Then I went straight to the bathroom, stopped the music, and collapsed back into bed with the biggest grin on my face. Victory! It's small, but it's mine. Edit. Okay, apparently some people are taking this way too seriously. I'm getting some hate in the comments and a few DMs accusing me of being cruel or trying to get people fired. Let me be very clear, this was not that serious. We've actually been joking with the maintenance crew since they turned around the apartment on the opposite side last week. It wasn't malicious. And for the record, my phone was not blasting like a boombox. It wasn't shaking the walls or making the neighbors 2 floors down hate their lives. I honestly doubt they heard much more than the melody. We can't even make out our neighbors' conversations through those walls, just the low rumbles of voices. So I'm confident all they got was an annoying little earworm at just the right time. No one's getting evicted. I'm not marching to the leasing office to make a complaint. I was annoyed. I got a little petty, and then the situation resolved itself. Now I get to enjoy my Saturday morning without being serenaded by power tools. Second edit. After thinking about it and laughing about it with my husband, we've decided to bring them some snacks next week and joke about the song to break the ice. I don't want them actually upset with us. They're good people, hardworking guys just doing their job. And honestly, I bet they don't want to be stuck here early on a Saturday either. Sometimes petty revenge just needs a little follow-up goodwill to keep things neighborly. And if we can all laugh about it over some donuts while Baby Shark plays quietly in the background, even better. Your approach was brilliant because it was proportional. The offense was an early morning noise nuisance. The response was an early morning noise nuisance. It wasn't destructive. It wasn't abusive. It was a simple sonic mirror held up to their actions. And our second story. The engineer who compiled revenge. I won't give up my real name. Let's say all the names in this story are made up. So I'm John Marston, a 45-year-old maker engineer working out of a garage. For the last 10 years, I've been employed by a company called Deep Brown Hole. Even before joining them, I'd been nurturing an idea like a fool polishing a glass toy, a custom firmware controller with an adaptive PID algorithm. The idea was simple. The system learns on its own from micro vibrations, backlash, bearing wear, and friction, automatically tweaking the PID so that the machine keeps tolerances as if it just rolled off the factory floor. On April 12, 2023, I filed a provisional patent in the U.S. When I got hired at Deep Brown Hole, I attached a separate prior invention sheet to my employment contract complete with dates, description, my signature, and HR's. While working there, I never touched my own code on their machines, my own laptop, private Git repo, my boards, my nights. Their NDA had no assignment clause, only confidentiality. Then on April 10th, 2024, I filed a PCT application claiming priority from that same provisional. And then silence. Work was work, routine firmware for their boxed controllers, nothing magical. Until the new general manager showed up. Everyone called him Shao Kahn the Destroyer. He looked like the only thing holding him together was his tie. Big smile, empty words, fancy watch, tired eyes, and a womanizer. Bad enough that he brought his guests into the building after midnight. One night I stayed late, walked past a glass conference room and saw him there with a woman. The smell of alcohol hit the whole floor. Her perfume followed. I walked on, but my phone in my pocket went click, click twice, just in case. Honestly, I wasn't planning revenge back then, just an archivist instinct. Put facts in boxes. A week later, he called me in. John, he said, let's assign you firmware to the company. You get a bonus, we get the rights, otherwise, you know how it goes. I knew one thing, he was neither a lawyer nor an engineer. That's my pre-company work, I said. It's listed as prior inventions, not a single bite on your resources. NDA isn't an assignment. He smiled like a shark. You work here, which means anything related to controllers is ours. I answered too honestly. Not everything with the word controller in it is yours. Get your lawyer, he'll explain the difference. Probably should have kept my mouth shut because 3 days later, HR brought me a termination notice for insubordination. I signed it. And something clicked. I had just enough time to enter national phases under the PCT, and not only that, by spring 2025, I flew to a trade show in Osaka. In my backpack, a demo rig. On my laptop, graphs on a flash drive, firmware. I approached the booth of a company we'll call Sushi Motors and asked for 15 minutes of an engineer's time. Their VP, Mr. Yamamoto, looked politely bored at first until a wobbly curve suddenly stabilized tight and flat with zero manual tuning. He set down his phone and asked me to do it again. Then he asked me to sit. Can you prove this isn't your previous employer's property, he said. I laid out the prior invention sheet, my dated commits from months before hiring, hardware usage logs, my NDA copy. I published nothing before filing, I added, and I never touched my code from their machines. He nodded. We love precision drives, he said, but we love clean IP even more. In June, we signed an exclusive deal. Sushi Motors Motion Systems would produce my modular machines with my controller and the marking Adaptive PID inside. Territories, Japan, South Korea, the EU through their German subsidiary, and North America. Term 7 years with renewal royalties, 5% of MSRP, plus a guaranteed minimum of $600,000 per year with an annual true-up. I entered national phases for the US, EU, DEFRITPL, Japan, Korea, China, Taiwan, Canada, and Mexico. The timeline fit perfectly. April 12, 2023. Priority, April 10, 2024. PCT, October 2025. National phase deadline, Yamamoto summed it up. You'll make it. So will we. Right then, Deep Brown Hole announced a revolution. Their website unveiled Brown Core X, a self-tuning controller with backlash compensation and vibration learning. Promo videos, graphs, banners. I opened my patent claims, poured coffee, put on headphones, and built a claim chart. Independent Claim 1, method of adaptive parameter identification with real-time PID adjustment, their AutoTune 2.0. Dependent Claim 2, using micro vibrations as a test signal, their dither mode. Claim 3, sliding window variance, their variance window. Claim 7, asymmetric backlash compensation, their backlash teach-in. Independent 12, modular hot swap bus for axes, their form factor. And I also had a design patent for the front panel, trapezoid with 3 asymmetric LEDs. Theirs looked like they just traced my photo. That same night, our Sushi Motors legal team drafted cease and desist letters with comparison tables and warned key European dealers. Our German and Polish partners filed for preliminary injunctions, Korea for protective measures, And the sweetest part? We knew Deep Brown Hole was bidding in a major electrorail tender requiring no IP infringements and a 10% penalty clause for any dispute. They called a meeting. The conference room smelled of cold espresso and nerves. Shao Kahn stared at the table. Their lawyer smiled professionally but emptily. I came with Mr. Yamamoto and our patent counsel. This is a misunderstanding, Shao Kahn began. Our engineers developed it independently. I slid the printout across. Independent paths aren't forbidden, I said, but when a forest trail has the same stones, stumps, and scratches on the same pine, it's not coincidence. Their lawyer coughed. Your patents aren't granted everywhere. In Germany and Poland, that's enough for an injunction, our counsel replied calmly. In the U.S., the main claim is already allowed. The design patent is issued. Shao Kahn squinted. How much for a license? I looked at Yamamoto. He gave a small nod. There won't be a license, I said. The only option, buy finished machines from Sushi Motors at MSRP, 100% prepayment, no discounts, no consignment, plus an official discontinuation of Brown Core X and recall of EU batches. They were silent so long I could hear a relay click in the aircon. Then the lawyer exhaled, that's extortion. It's geometry, I said. You've boxed yourselves in a corner. Our counsel added, by the way, Electrorail requested a statement from you that your product infringes no IP. Will you sign it? The lawyer looked at Shao Kahn. He stared at the table. While they thought, court inspectors in Hanover arrived at the exhibition where Brown Core X was displayed. They taped off the booth and impounded the gear. Forums lit up like tungsten bulbs. Electrorail instantly cooled toward them, writing politely but fatally, due to IP risks, we're reviewing our priorities. When they called me again, Shao Kahn looked like he'd slept on a server room carpet. Red eyes, uneven stubble, restless hands. We'll take it, he said. 24 units, MSRP, prepaid, send the invoice. The invoice is in your inbox, Yamamoto replied. And here's the draft press release, minus the fake phrasing. They wired the money the next day. I got my developer margin plus royalties per unit. Sushi Motors shipped the order. Deep Brown Hole pretended it was portfolio optimization. The world politely pretended to believe them. And now a bit of karma. Remember those late-night tour photos from the glass room? Sometime after our first meeting, someone anonymously sent them to Shao Kahn's wife, complete with timestamps and the reflection of his watch on the glass, courtesy of the lobby camera. A week later, his wedding ring disappeared. A month later, he drove a different car. The company demoted him. Internal audit swooped in. Whispers of conflicts of interest followed. I don't flatter myself as the trigger for it all. I just smiled and moved on. When the first royalty payments escaped from accounting into my reality, I rented a 400 square meter workshop and opened an R&D lab. Let's call it unnamed lab. Built test rigs, set up a laser tracker, a small climate chamber for temperature stability tests. I called two people I'd always wanted on my side, but not in Deep Brown Hole. Arthur, the most meticulous C++ developer in our area, once rewrote a driver overnight and saved a release. Sean, a power electronics wizard in cat t-shirts who hated fake deadlines. They both said yes before I'd finished mentioning stock options. We sat in a diner across from the shop, drinking coffee. Arthur looked out the window at an empty Sushi Motors truck pulling away. Remember when he said everything about controllers was theirs, he asked. I remember, I said. And that prior invention sheet with 2 signatures? Sean laughed. I remember the invoice line with no discount. The sweetest word in engineering, MSRP. No, I corrected. The sweetest word is prepayment. My phone pinged reminders. DE injunction confirmed. PL hearing scheduled. KR order active. Inbox, a polite note from Electrorail. Thank you. We understand everything. On the table, a notebook with sketches for Adaptive PID 2.0. I turned the page and drew 3 dots, like the same front panel design that caused so much talk. You know, I told the guys, the most underrated feature of algorithms is memory. It keeps a system from repeating mistakes. Humans could use that too, Sean nodded. Arthur raised his cup. To memory, and to prior inventions. I don't hate Deep Brown Hole. they just did what people do when they believe paper is stronger than math. They confused owning with creating. I simply reminded them of the difference. Now they buy my machines from Sushi Motors at full retail. I collect royalties and sleep without an alarm. Shao Kahn's divorcing, splitting assets, and wearing other people's ties to meetings. And I, in my garage-turned-lab, tune another curve segment and think of a name for the next version. Maybe Karma PID. Moral of the story, never steal code from an engineer who knows what prior inventions means. He won't just write revenge, he'll compile it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.